Hey, bubbling, coming in, crushing this art. Welcome to Bubblin's Astrologic Numerology Six. Let us see. All right. So immediately, we're a mutable number being four, five, or six. No, being three, six, or nine. These are all mutables. But being six, a four, five, or six, we're in the fixed realm. So already we see personally we're coming at this from a mutable perspective. Personally, we always want to be relating, right? We always want to be taking into account other people. Um, yeah, and then we always find ourselves in the realm of what makes sense, or this would be the realm of fixed. This would be like the public realm. Like when we go to the store, like when we're holding up our business, right? Because the mutable realm would be completely giving ourselves to someone else. And the cardinal realm would be like our home. This fixed realm would be like this harmonized medium ground, this public realm. Yeah. And then we're water within that. So, yeah, on the dial of four, being even, but also only being divisible by two once, then becoming three versus, say, eight or 24. 8 would be 4, again divisible by 2, and 24 would be 12, again divisible by 2. So when we start to think about this, what this means is that the greater body or the greater current is starting to show way or be related to into our structures and what we care about. And what I mean by this is water is just as volatile as fire. It's just externally driven. Whereas fire is going to create a sort of cancer. Um, Water is going to create a sort of flood. And so what I mean by this is a cancer is when cells start to take a life of their own, right? Or so we say. And what that would be like like physically would be like a revolution, right? Or yeah, within our body, cancer, right? Or within a household, someone going their own way, right? Just having your own mind, right? It's that Aries energy that really causes that instead of going with the flow, right? Whereas this water becomes just as devastating, but in a sort of um, like higher sort of way or coming from the external. Now all of a sudden the structures that be are really letting you know sort of what they are and relating. Yeah. So it's a sort of like, for example, like cancer is always letting people into its personal life to where it's like always kind of has to work around and feel expanded by or feel sort of at the mercy of the external world in a way. And same with Scorpio and Pisces, it's this sort of constant drawn out, but when you're drawn out into the world, there's a lot going on in the world, right? And so now all of a sudden it's like the the organizations and the flow kind of taking hold of you, right? And that's just getting sucked into what is like the external flow, right? What is the bodies and the institutions we're within. Regardless if that's like family, right? Cancer would more so be like our family, right? Like all of a sudden we're harmonizing with whoever has ownership of the household, right? Scorpio's like more so like why it's occultic because it's more who has ownership over the public sphere, right? And then Pisces is more so really tuning into like a person, right? Um, Getting sucked up into up like whatever, yeah, whatever. It's the mutable water. So yeah. So yeah. So that's just a little bit about that water. And so why I bring that up is so we sort of have this Scorpio thing here with six too, in that we're bringing this water into a fixed realm such that we have all these ways in which we've harmonized, right? But all of a sudden, we're kind of like following logics through and um, um, like constantly kind of exposed. It's like this, think about this structure that is constantly getting washed by water, right? It's constantly making sure it works. It's like a business, and then the water is the tides or the currency coming in, right? Like it's constantly there's shifts going on in the environment, right? So it's changing people's like motives, and now we're reacting and responding as businesses and as structures and as fixity to this kind of shifting political and social currents, right? So now um, that's kind of what this is. It's kind of this sort of dealing with structure and dealing with security, but kind of deeply catering towards these shifts and understanding what's going to hold up externally, right? And kind of being externally focused on that. So yeah, that's a good sum. Yeah, and then we can bring up six's superpowers and its movements. It being a water sign, it's already, again, constantly backing its direction, its personal direction, its fire with the water, which sort of is like this restriction, but the sort of ability to work out of situations and external currents. And then we have 3 times 2, air times water, which is the sort of ability to communicate and express around what's happening externally, right? And like kind of be received in your expression and make sense. Fortunate expression. And also, yeah, an ability to kind of cater towards others, though, with your own expression. So it's sort of one of those be careful how you utilize, right? Instead of like this is a sort of struggle. The fire by water is sort of struggle to figure out how you can sort of speak. This is almost like an ability to speak, but only through like relating, right? So it's this sort of make sure you're relating properly and for who you really are, right? Um, yeah. And now us being 6, this is yeah. So it just expresses itself through 6, which should go back. It really matters when we get down to compound numbers, like say 15, because it expresses itself through 1 and 5, but it's still a digital root 6. But 6 is 6, so this is again mutable in the fixed realm, which is still dealing with support, like dealing with our structure, dealing with our securities, like our businesses. Um, but again, making sure and catering there to others. So being like responsible and sort of having that andromatic kind of frame and sort of like place that you're set in, but also being very like catering, right? Very like otherly driven and kind of having this sort of changeability and this liveliness in your relatability. So yeah, that's a little bit about 6. Hey, enjoy the day, my 6 people. Look, yeah, I'll leave numbers down below that relate to 6 that have the same digital root and the same element, which we can find just by adding 36 to 6 continually and finding cool numbers. But yeah, and they'll basically have everything in common besides potentially slightly different movements, and then uh, how they'll express themselves, right? Because it might not be, they will obviously be compound, so it won't just be expressing itself through 6, but it will be water. It will be in the fixed realm, and it will be mutable, right? Just like 6 have the same zodiacal placement. So, hey, Bubbler, Citra, Beach.